¿Qué te importa a ti?
I was not here to talk like this randomly like 4 months ago, and they said it was good enough that I could come back. So before they asked me to talk about programming and how that basically a lot of the W's about programming, and I guess this is also like a business related thing, and so how programming kind of relates to business. A little bit about me. I started programming, I guess. Actually, do you guys ever programmed in any way? Anybody? Any experience? Yeah? A little bit? Cool. Like what? That's pretty good. Huh?
No, I'm joking.
He doesn't program.
Doesn't program. Stretching? Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Do they offer that thing? You just do it on your own?
Right.
Yeah, I just started taking programming. Pascal was the language. I didn't really know I wanted to be a programmer until I think I was like a sophomore in college. I wasn't sure what. But what really I think appealed to me about programming is that you can just, you come up with something you want to do, you have some idea, if it's at all related to information or computers, and you can just do it. You can just start doing it. Like you don't need to go like, you don't need to spend any money. You don't need to ask anyone's permission. You can just figure it out and start doing it if you have like a computer to type on, like the oldest, 1982 computer. You can do all the programming that, you can write iOS apps on it. It doesn't matter. It's such a low barrier, and just the fact that you can just, it's like the most creative thing I feel like that I can do, because I'm not artistic, I can't do music. I don't know, I'm not good with my hands, like making shop class. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. But, and it also kind of relates to entrepreneurship. So I guess it was something about like me wanting to be kind of an entrepreneur and have my own business that also sort of just vibed with programming, where if you start your own business, you're pretty much like, you have some idea, you want to do it, and you just have to go do it, and it really sucks when there's like reasons that you can't. And anyway, let's get into it. What is programming? I'm not sure what button I press here. Yes. So, okay. So yeah, programming is basically just telling a computer what to do. Because computers will just do exactly what you tell them to do, which is not how humans typically work. Humans, you can sort of say something, and it's not exactly what they know what you mean, but computers don't know what you mean. And basically, it's like talking to a robot, because they have the same brain as a robot, because robots have a computer. So look at this computer. I was telling you, to show slides, and it's having a problem.
Is that not part of your slides?
That's not part of my
Oh
slides.
my god, that is so funny.
That's funny.
Yikes.
I can fix it though. No, just kidding.
Oh.
Computers. If you want, I brought my own.
Yeah. Do you need the connector?
I don't know. I only know how to program. Not use
I have it.
Okay. All right, moving on. Maybe that was censored or something. I don't know. That's where you crashed the whole computer.
Wow, that's
Present. I can just hold it up.
Then I have a.
I know. No, they're like solid state, right? So they can't break. Well, I heard the iPhone 6 is banned.
I was just hearing about that today.
Yeah, like it's not supposed to bend, but they're so big, like when you sit down, you take it out and you're like, oh, now I have work on it. Yeah. It's like aluminum or something, metal. Damn.
You don't have
Indestructible. Actually, I just got those screen replaced. They're not quite. Should I just hook it in?
No, you need the.
Yeah, what?
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
All right, well, meantime, you can catch up. So yeah, basically, what programming is just translating human thought into computer thought. And so, which is harder than it looks, because they are like, they're not even, it's not like different languages, like it's hard enough to translate like English into Spanish or German, but at least in that case you're still talking to another human. who kind of understands where you're coming from maybe, and like you can get along in a country where you only speak a few words, just like kind of doing universal things that all humans understand. But computers are like, you know, they're just totally alien. They don't understand what you mean. And so programming is essentially just being able to express yourself clearly in a way that like the stupidest thing on earth, which is a computer, can understand. So you have some idea and you just need to be able to verbalize it exactly right, like super clearly. And otherwise the computer does this. You scream to death, like, I didn't know exactly what you meant when you said next slide, because someone programmed it wrong a long time ago. I don't know if I should be switching on here or whatever. So anyway, I thought I'd give some examples of programming, what it actually looks like different programming languages. I mean, there's a lot people have heard of, like C++, maybe writing stuff for iPhones is like now there's a new language called Swift. There's actually hundreds and thousands of computer programming languages. And typically what you do when you're trying to learn a new programming languages is your first thing, like the simplest thing you try and get out is it's called a Hello World program, where all you want it to do is just make the computer print out on the screen Hello World. And because actually there's a lot of kind of setup just to get that going, and that's, once you've got that working, then you can actually be like, what do I really want it to do now that I at least have the computer like not crashed. You know? So first you get the computer to boot up, then you figure out how to get Hello World in your language. So here's some example ones of just alphabetically. This is how you write it in ABAP, which was a programming language I'd never heard of before making this presentation. ABAP. That's how you write it in Ada, which was actually, I think in college I did have a class where we wrote Ada. It's used a lot in really old like government type things. So how you write it in AppleScript, which was something that I don't know if they still support it, but on Macs you could automate things like moving your mouse around and clicking automatically without you having to do it. In AppleScript, assembly, this is the same program. All these are the same program, but just different languages. Assembly is getting down to actually telling the computer what to do in the physical, like inside the computer there's like memory chips and all this weird stuff. And basically, it's funny because programming languages themselves have gotten a lot easier over the years because they've made it easier to program by moving further from a computer and closer to a human. So this is one of the earlier programming languages where you had to tell a computer just like, take this little bit of memory I'm telling you and put it here. Then, if that's full, actually move it over here. And use this one, move it over here. Now they kind of hide that from you, so you can just say, print hello world. Like, awk is a more like recent programming language. BASIC was a good one that is pretty old now, but was an easy way to program. This one is kind of cool. You can kind of write it in any way. Some people have come up with languages that they actually want to make hard just for fun. So this one is, I can't read it from here, it's too small, but if it was on the big screen, we'd be able to see. And C is a pretty, yeah, you can Google it.
Brain fucker?
Brain fucker. C is a pretty big one. C++ is like a more modern version of C. COBOL is an old one. Erlang. This is, so most of the time computer programming languages are written in English just because computers were developed like in America, basically, and so we use English, and it's kind of convenient because English doesn't have a lot of different characters. So really, in the early days, computers didn't have a lot of space to like have accents and stuff, so they had ASCII, which was only sort of regular English letters. But more recently, this is I think kind of like an India language, which basically says print hello world. It's for teaching programming actually. India. Fortran is an old one for a lot of science stuff. Go is a new one that Google created and uses. Haskell. Java is one that was kind of interesting. Came out about 20 years ago now that works across all different computers without having to rewrite it. In the old days, it'd be like if you were writing for Windows, you have to write a totally different program if you're writing for a Mac, or if you're writing for a video game system, or you're writing for a cell phone. Your program just didn't work. It have to work. You have to write it for the device. And then Java was like, what if we could write it one time, and every type of computer or cell phone could use it? Now the JavaScript was sort of taking that idea and using it for the web. Everything became web anyway. List. This is a cool one. This one was actually designed to be impossible for humans to write. Even worse than that other one. malbulge. It took 3 years after the guy released the code of how the programming language would work before someone wrote a successfully compiled, like this is Hello World. It took them 3 years to discover how to write this because the programming language was designed to be impossible for humans to write, but basically it failed because someone did figure out how to write Hello World. It took them 3 years. But a computer will read that and go, okay, got it. PHP is a big one that I love to use. Rex. This is Scratch is a language just for teaching programming language.
Oh, I used to think
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like
it's for like animation.
and it's like got a visual way that you drag things together
Yeah.
to do it instead of sed, tickle. This one's pretty cool. Whitespace. So Whitespace is another like silly programming language, which let me read this program to you. Oh, there you go. Just in time for my best slide. Let me see. All right. Yeah.
I have the same computer, I would never do that.
No, they're indestructible. Isn't great. So this is actually a program that says Hello World in Whitespace, which is a programming language only made up of tabs, new lines, and spaces. So this program right here actually is tab, new line, space, 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 tab, tab, space, space, tab, space, tab, new line, tab, new line, space, 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 tab, tab. It goes on, I have it all here, but basically, computers are not like people. That's what I'm trying to get across, and there's a lot of different programming languages. It's kind of cool because with Whitespace, you could actually have one program that's 2 different programs in 2 different programming languages in the same file. Because most other programming languages actually ignore Whitespace. And you can put everything on one line if you want, or you can put a lot of returns in or whatever, and they just ignore any spaces, tabs, or new lines. So Whitespace is the opposite of that, and ignores all other characters and only looks for tabs, spaces, and new lines. So you could actually put in a bunch of other programming language in the same file, and it would be 2 completely different programs. Like if you were just really bored. I keep forgetting which thing is controlling this. Okay, what am I doing? All right, what? Obviously, there's a lot of uses for software, right? Like everything financial, programs, running programs. You know, it's used in like every movie now, every animated movie, all special effects, all that stuff, all software people have written. I mean, it's almost like right computer graphics that have people in them. It's all computer graphics, Photoshop, that, medical things, right? I mean, everything, video games, like all social stuff, apps, everything, Facebook, military things, 3D modeling, you know, scientific visualizations. There's just a lot of different things that, you know, like basically if you're interested in anything, then there's a programmer job in that field, you know, and it's a well-paid, very safe job that doesn't require heavy lifting or anything. Self-driving cars, everything, right? Google and Facebook, and all kinds of these huge internet startups, all programmers, basically. The other thing I guess that I like about programming versus sort of any other job is you never do the same thing twice. Because with software, you have told a computer how to do it. And now there's no point in you ever doing it again because computers can do it for free, infinitely fast, as much as you want. Whereas like, you know, if you build a house or something, like maybe the first time you do it, you're like, cool. And then the second time you do it, like, well, there's a lot of the same stuff again. Whereas with programming, even if you're writing a similar program to the last program you wrote, all you do is just copy and paste all the stuff you already had, you know, or use a function you already wrote. Like you never really write exactly the same thing twice, ever. So every time you're doing anything programming, it's kind of like you're discovering a new thing that never existed before in the world. Because otherwise you would just Google it and see if it was there and then use that program. And there keep being more and more things. It's sort of, you think we'd run out of programs that you could do. Let's see, so what makes a good programmer? There's this guy, the creator of Perl, which is a good programming language that I like. So the 3 great virtues of programmer are laziness, impatience, and hubris. So not only is programming like the best job, it's also the best for people who are lazy, impatient, and hubris is like proud, I guess. So overconfidence, yeah, overconfidence, yeah, decades. So like basically, if you're kind of a jerk, you might be a good programmer. There you go. Yeah. So I'm pretty good. No, in terms of laziness, I guess it's like this whole other kind of laziness, more than just typical laziness. I feel like with a programmer, it's like you don't want to do anything. Like if you find yourself starting to like do something, you're like, couldn't the computer do this? And then you sit there and just think, and you're like, yeah, I should program. You know, like this is not human work. This is the work for robots. This is not worthy of my time because you're so lazy. So you find yourself like spending all this other time working on this thing to make it so you don't have to do this like thing that will really only take you 2 minutes. But you're so lazy that you just want to make it like so the computer does it instead of me. And that was the 5 times. I didn't finish it. The impatience is also it's sort of like the laziness, but you also just can't. You're so impatient. It's like not even a normal human level of impatience that you don't even like waiting for the computer to finish things. So you kind of always have this desire to make the computer like do more of the work and do it faster. And then hubris, yeah, it's just a thing that programmers have that they kind of feel like, oh yeah, this would be better. Like I don't know, like a lot of people I've noticed, and all this stuff kind of works with entrepreneurs too. And starting a business is you'll just see something and you'll think like, isn't this stupid? And then you'll kind of have the feeling that like, well, I mean, there's probably a good reason for it. And you're just like, I just don't understand why it seems stupid to me. But if you kind of have these characteristics of a programmer or entrepreneur, I think you're more like, no, this is stupid. And no one's thought of this before because I'm a genius, so I'm going to go make this thing do this. And the whole world has never done this before because everyone else is stupid compared to me. And maybe later you find out that actually, no, there was a good reason, but still along the way, plowing through it, you actually might discover something. So I think, yeah, personally I have a lot of laziness and impatience and hubris, so I became a good programmer. All right, so now I'm going to go into some people that were programmers. First programmer ever, Ada Lovelace, 1850s or so. She was born in December 1815, died in November 1852. So she's like 37, which actually, I am 37. Well, I think I'm a little older than her. I think she didn't quite make it to 37. So she was actually the first programmer way before there were computers. There was Charles Babbage had this thing called the counting machine, or the analytical engine. It was sort of a theoretical thing, but basically he invented a computer without actually making one because it didn't have the metal. I don't know. And then she was a mathematician who basically designed the first algorithm to use this machine and basically program. So the first programmer was a woman. If any women here are thinking programming is for dudes, it's not true. However, a lot of other programmers are dudes. People know who this guy is? Bill Gates, richest guy in the world. So 6 of the top 10, I believe, I looked it up, richest people in America are programmers. Bill Gates, $76 billion, started Microsoft, he was a programmer, turned into business, lots of stuff, makes great products. Steve Jobs was not a programmer, and he's dead, and he didn't end up being that rich because he gave away a lot of his equity and all this stuff, got kicked out, came back, didn't take on any stock options, but he did pretty well, yeah. Actually, he was a little bit of a programmer too, I remember. Wozniak, yeah. So, but he's not in the top 10. I don't know if you guys know who this is? Anybody? Larry Ellison started Oracle. He was a programmer too, which is a big database. Huh?
Matrix.
That was what it was based on. No, but I think it started in the 70s. He's worth $43 billion. Recently retired. He's like number 3. This guy, not that guy. Jimmy Fallon, not a programmer, not a billionaire. There you go. But Michael Bloomberg, who was the mayor of New York for a while, he was a programmer, made Bloomberg Financial, which was financial software that basically every trading company uses. And let's see, he's worth $33 billion. These 2 guys started Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. That's their Tesla. University. One of the Salaries, I don't know.
You got money.
CD, you have $29 billion. I don't really care what people think. This guy, anybody? Jeff Bezos? Amazon.com. He doesn't have a crazy eye, but he was a programmer, started Amazon. So is he worth 28 billion? Something like that. This guy, there's a clue. Yeah. He's actually, I think he's got a Facebook. Although the MySpace guy was not a programmer, I believe, and did end up with a few hundred. But I think he's actually worth more than this because this was like 4 months ago, but it was 26 billion, it's probably 40 now. How about this guy? Elon Musk. Yeah, Elon Musk. So these are some LA-based billionaire programmers. He's worth about 12 billion. Elon Musk is a programmer. Started PayPal, sold it, started PayPal. Yep. Sold PayPal to eBay, whatever, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, and started Tesla and SpaceX stuff. SpaceX. They are private space launch stuff. Government is something. This guy, Bill Gross, based in Pasadena, he's worth 2.3 billion. He's a programmer who made a company. He basically is called Idea Lab. It was like an incubator for lots of companies, and one of them got bought by Yahoo for $a few billion. Anybody know who this guy is? Not a programmer. That was when Don Sterling took this guy. Yeah, $2 billion, but not a programmer. Not interesting. So, some other programs. So, I started a company in college with a few guys. One of them, Sage, he actually in high school started this thing, which this is not what it looks like now, but it looked way different back then. He doesn't own it anymore. But when he was in high school, he made this software that let people like link together related websites. And he got like 1 million users, and he ended up selling it to Yahoo. And he ended up, I think, with about $5 million when he was a sophomore. In college, sophomore college. Yes, you got time. But yeah, and we were partners in a business. Then he went off to grad school, I think, a few years after college, and he started working on this. And then back in May, Inktank was acquired by Red Hat for $190 million. While Inktank CTO. And he and I had the company DreamHost, featured customer, there that we started in college, and never got acquired yet, but does about 40 million in revenue a year. What is it? And it's web hosting, so like GoDaddy, basically. You guys know GoDaddy, so you can buy domain names and host your website, stuff like that. And the thing is like, we kind of ran our business like a software company, and we kind of had that mentality of that laziness, where basically people would have something that they want you to do, and instead of just going and doing it for them, you would like write a program to do it for them, and then give them the program and say like, they'd be like, oh, I want to add an email address. And back when we first started, all the other web hosts would be like, well, just call us and tell us what email address you want, and then what you want your password to be, and then we'll go in, change the config files in the server, and we'll add it, or we'll click and add it. And we're like, that's crazy, it's so much work. So we wrote a thing so customers could like go to the web panel and say, add an email address, type it in, next, and that kind of thing, and like register domain and everything. And like really hard stuff, we'd be like, well, I still don't want to ever do that again. Let the customers do it themselves. And so we kind of kept our costs really low because we didn't end up having to hire tons of people to like man phones, reply emails. They were just like resetting passwords all day, or like which literally almost all our competitors did. And so we never had to raise any outside money, which is sort of a good thing and a bad thing. But on the good side, we didn't get diluted a lot. Like so, like Steve Jobs versus Michael Bloomberg, like Steve Jobs, like Apple's worth, I don't know, 10 times more than Bloomberg, but Michael Bloomberg is worth 10 times more than Steve Jobs. Because Michael Bloomberg owned 83% of his company, even when it became worth billions of dollars, because he never had to take in lots of money to grow it. Steve Jobs owned like 1% or something of Apple when he died, like a tiny amount, because you have to spend lots of money, so you have to borrow the money from people, or people have to give it to you and buy out parts of your company, and along the way you end up with less and less and less. But it's okay if the pie is getting bigger and bigger. But if you can also do it where you never give up any, like it could be really big. And it's sort of with that like software mentality, I think, that gets you there. And then I kind of stepped away, and I'm not involved in DreamHost anymore, but like it was like 4 years ago when the iPad was coming out, I made this website myself, Keep Up Bud, which was just like kind of I had the idea that I was like, I want to write a children's book for the iPad, because I bet the iPad will be popular with kids because it's color and it's big. Before that, there's only the Kindles, if you remember, for ebooks that are just black and white. And so right when it came out, I was like, yeah, I'll make a children's book for the iPad. And then I was like, you know what's probably better than making a children's book? Probably making a site that lets other people make children's books. A lot of times within this, you want something, and then you think about like, I want it, maybe other people want it. Maybe what I should be doing is just helping those other people get it, as opposed to just doing it. So I made this site that like lets you just kind of use a web thing to make them, and people upload stuff and made stuff and share. And then after a couple of years, I was like, it's pretty popular. What if I put ads on it? So I show ads on it. It's just me. I don't run anything. And the ads make about $1,000 a day now for this site. And it's great because I have no employees. I don't even, and Google just puts it in your checking account. You don't even have to pay credit card fees. And it just runs. And then the total cost of that is just the web hosting, which is about $20 a day. But then I had this, so I don't really have to work. That's why I quit 3 months. And I just sort of had this idea. It took me about 2 weeks to write it. It still took a long time to get enough users and to get that sort of traffic going, but you just apply all this stuff. So programming is cool. You have an idea and you just make money. For example, Bitcoin. Have you guys heard about Bitcoin? A little bit? Yeah. Yeah, it's complicated. But basically, Bitcoin was created in 2009 by an anonymous programmer who called himself Satoshi Nakamoto, but people don't even think he's Japanese or anything. No one knows who he is. But that's a good way to make money programming. He just programmed money. So it's estimated that Satoshi Nakamoto probably has about 1 million Bitcoin himself, and Bitcoin is currently trading at $425 a Bitcoin, 422.55. So he programmed himself $422 million, and no one even knows who he is. He never had to make a company. He owns it, but Bitcoin is pretty cool. It's like, when I heard about it, I was like, that would be perfect for a web hosting company, so I was really excited in 2010. It's kind of weird. It's basically electronic gold. It's like, imagine if gold was electronic. If you could email gold to somebody in as small a piece as you wanted, anywhere in the world, instantaneously, anonymously, and it can't be counterfeited, and no more of it can be created also. So there's a fixed supply of it, and that's what Bitcoin is. So there's 21 million Bitcoin, and they can't make any more, and they can't be counterfeited. They can be divided down into 100 millions of the Bitcoin, so like you could send 0.00001 Bitcoins is the smallest amount. And so he invented this system that's decentralized. That's why there are dots everywhere. No one actually runs it, but everyone running the software is kind of verifying all the transactions for each other. It's pretty, well here, it's so simple. Here's how it works. Yeah, it's complicated, but this guy thought of it all, and he programmed it, and he released it anonymously. People read his stuff, and they're like, this is complicated, but I'm smart, and I understand it, and that actually makes sense, and I'll run the software too. And more people did, and the price went from, I think the first time it was ever traded was less than a quarter of a penny a Bitcoin, and now it's at $425 a Bitcoin. So it's gone up 400 times 425 times in like 4 years. But he just had the idea, and he was like, this is something the world needs, basically. It's like cash that no government runs. And so it's like the cash of the world, electronic for people that can't be counterfeited. And it's pretty cool. And so I got into Bitcoin, and what did I do? I made a few websites, just like I like to do. Like I made one selling Bitcoin t-shirts, like this one. And I made a site for like sports betting with Bitcoin. Not like March Madness pools, because I had run a Madness pool at my, I started in high school, doing March Madness pools, and then my work, and then PayPal doesn't like it when you do March Madness pools because they're illegal. And so you have to tell your friends to like, okay, send me $10, actually send me 10.03 and say it's for lunch. Because like if you get a bunch of payments around March, all the same amount, all from a bunch of people to one address that are all like, you know, $10 or $25, then you get an email from PayPal saying, we think you're doing a sports betting pool and we're disabling your account.
What is that?
What is
Sports betting?
Oh, like March Madness pools where, you know, about the March Madness tournament every year, the college tournament where 64 teams go and they all play each other to the champion.
Yeah.
So basically a lot of people will make these pools where you fill out the whole bracket. You know the 64 teams, you pick who's going to win every single game, and you get a point for everyone you get right, and everyone puts money in, and then the winner gets all the money, whoever gets the most right. And so we would do that in our office, but then you want to collect money from everyone who's kind of joining the pool, but then you don't want to like go physically collect all the money, so you just have them PayPal you, but then PayPal shuts you down. So I was like, Bitcoin's good for this. And so I made a Bitcoin site with that, and I started making other little weird pools like football ones and other stuff. And then I came across, basically February 9th, I had this idea of Bitcoin Builder, which was just a, it's a little complicated, but there was this website shutting down that, well, I don't know they were shutting down, but there was this big Bitcoin exchange that froze withdrawals for a little while. It was like if you had a Wells Fargo account and Wells Fargo was like, we're having technical difficulties, no one can take dollars out, but we're fine, everything's fine. Just give us a couple days and you'll be able to get your money. And so people started to get like, hey, what's going on? And they started to a little bit to get upset, and so but what you could still do is transfer inside the account. So it would be like if Wells Fargo said, no one can take money out, but if you want to send, if you have a Wells Fargo account, you go to a Wells Fargo account, you guys can still send money to each other. That's fine. No one can take it out of Wells Fargo though. You're like, why? Were you robbed? And then, nope. Nope. That's not what happened. So, but people were like, some people on the outside were like, I didn't think they were robbed. And other people, you know, someone who wanted to get their money out were like, does anyone want to maybe trade real money for this like Wells Fargo money that might not exist anymore? And so I saw people on forums begin to say things like, okay, I'll send you like 1 Bitcoin for 1.2, it's called Mt. Gox Bitcoin. So I have an account, you have an account. You send me 1.2 Bitcoins inside Mt. Gox, and I'll give you one in the real world that you know is real. And I was like, I thought Mt. Gox was fine. And so, because I've been using them, and I was like, well, this is a good way to make some money. So I wanted to do that, but I didn't like doing it on the forums where it's just random people and they're like, Skype me, and it's people in, you know, Russia, and it's people in Vietnam, and you're like, I don't know, and they're like, you go first, no, you go first. And so I was like, someone needs a trusted exchange where everyone goes, and there's like a trusted guy in the middle who verifies, they're like, yeah, they have the Mt. Gox coins, yeah, they have the Bitcoin. So I was like, I can make that because I'm into Bitcoin, people know who I am a little bit, and I started like an LA Bitcoin meetup. I have a stream host that people have heard of. So I made this website in like 2 days, and I put it out there where people could all come here and just put in orders and say like, I have Mt. Gox Bitcoins that I'll take 0.9 regular Bitcoins, and I have regular Bitcoins and I'll take, you know, as long as I get 1.3 Mt. Gox Bitcoins, I'll trade them. And so I launched this site February 11th, I think, and in 2 weeks, so I wrote it in 2 days, 2 weeks later, I was taking 2% of every trade. So when they traded, I'll just take 2% fees on both sides. And by the end of 2 weeks later, I made $200,000 in fees that day. It became like the biggest site, biggest Bitcoin site in the world. And then that was the day that Mt. Gox was like, guess what, we were robbed, we don't have any Bitcoins. So that was kind of bad because everybody who'd been buying those Mt. Gox Bitcoins, because the price was just like, started about 0.9 cents on the dollar, like 90 cents on the dollar. And like as rumors started to get out, and as time went on, the price kept going down, down, down. And basically at the end, I think the price went down to like 5 cents on the dollar. So you would get 20 Mt. Gox Bitcoins for every real Bitcoin. And then they were like, oh, guess what, we don't have any. Sorry. And they were the biggest exchange in the world. So it was really bad news, and I was totally not expecting that. But I actually never ended up trading on it because I was now the exchange itself. So it was kind of okay. And then later they found 20% of their Bitcoins. So, oh, here they are, sorry. But they only found 20%. So actually people who bought at 5 cents should make about 4 times their money. But they're just these things that kind of pop up, and when you're a programmer, you can sort of just do them like in a day, or 2 days, or 2 weeks, and put it out there. And like nowadays with the internet and everything, like, I mean, it was crazy. It was a lot of work, but again, it was just me. I did it all myself. Okay, now let's say you are just into programming for the money and not for the fun. So I looked up this stuff for 2012 average starting salaries, and you can kind of look at it yourself. And it's sort of interesting. I hadn't really recognized this, but basically, if you graph it, it is high school dropouts, finishing high school, graduating from college, and graduating from college as like a computer science, which is programmer, or something technical. And all of those are 50% higher. So it's basically, it says like important to graduate from high school as it is to graduate from college. Like it's as much better each time in terms of your earning potential as it is to, I guess, it's hard to get across, but you see the graph, right? Basically, graduating from high school is as much better as not graduating from high school is, as graduating college is, as it is to graduate only from high school. But also, graduating from college with a degree in something technical, engineering or programming, computer science, something like that, is as good, is as much better as graduating from college with like, just graduating from college with like a social studies type history or art or communications or marketing or business degree. Basically, it's like, if you consider graduating from college with a computer science degree like graduating from college, then graduating from college without a computer science degree is like not going to college. It's that much of another difference in terms of average salaries. And also in terms of unemployment rate, I looked this up too. Basically, this is all US workers' unemployment rate, and then this is people who graduate from college with a technical degree's unemployment rate. And the highest it ever got was about the lowest it ever got. So basically, the worst time you're going to have finding a job as a computer science graduate from college is as good as the best time you'll ever have finding a job with any other, like as a regular worker. So I just thought that was funny. Okay, now this is something that wasn't like business related, but just one time, I don't know if you guys ever watch basketball games, and at the end of the game, a team is up by 2 points, and then the other team hits a 3 to win it at the buzzer. I feel like that should never happen, because why would you like just foul them? Worst case, well, definitely if you're up 3, you should totally foul them, right? Because then they can't shoot a 3. All they can do is shoot 2 free throws and you win. But they like almost never do that in the NBA. And I was like, what if you're even up 2? Maybe you should do it, because then worst case they could tie. They're not going to hit a 3 to win it. And then I was thinking, wait, what if you're up 4? You should do it, because they're going to hit a 3 to cut it to 1. You don't want them to hit a 3 ever, right? If it's near the end of the game, what if you're up 6? You should probably start fouling them. And basically, I was like, if they're fouling you, you should start fouling them. Just make the rest of the game a free throw contest, because you can't catch up 6 points in a free throw contest in the NBA. I mean, everyone shoots. You put in your best free throw shooters, they put in their best free throw shooters. Everyone shoots about 80%. Like, there should be no amazing comebacks in the NBA. Basically, like if you're trying to win. And so I was like, I wonder if that's actually right and how I do this. So I made a computer program to simulate it, where I just sort of wrote up, it took me like 30 minutes or so to write a thing that I looked at like what all the NBA teams, like average free throw shooting was, average 2-point shooting, average free throw, 3-point, all the shooting, percentage chance they get an offensive rebound, and I just simulated like 100,000 NBA games where you did the strategy of not fouling and you did the strategy of fouling based on how many points you were down and how much time was left. And I was right, so now I think I could be a super NBA coach because I know how to program. And it was basic. I don't actually remember the details, but it was something like, 70% of the time you win if you don't foul, but 95% of the time you win if you do foul. And so, yeah.
So you're going to tell the players to hit the other team?
Yeah, that's what they do anyway. The other team's doing it to you. It's just for some reason the team that's ahead doesn't do it to the team that's behind. The team that's behind is always like, oh, foul. So they, it's our only chance. But the team that's ahead, you'd be like, look, you can do that to me, we're going to do that to you. We're just going to make a stupid fouling game the rest of the way. And the crowd can go home. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys play, but I use this in our pickup thing. Like, yeah, you just don't want them to hit a 3 to tie it. Yeah, all they get is 2 points.
I got a question.
And like San Antonio would have won 2 years ago if they'd done that instead of like letting Ray Allen shoot a 3. Yeah.
Don't that mean they gonna foul out of the game?
You have so many players. I'm talking about the last like 10 seconds or the last possession. Basically, the other team's starting to foul you. I also don't think you should foul out, but that's not really a computer science thing because there's already penalties, right? Like Jerry shoot free throws. Why do you have to foul out of the game? I don't know. I also think that if it's an intentional foul, they should get the ball back. And it's obviously an intentional foul when you grab someone, right? So that would be the end of that too. Anyway, and also this morning I was lying in bed, and do you guys use Reddit? Does it Reddit? Versus Reddit? Reddit? Reddit.com? No?
I've seen it, but
No. So it's just this website that is for, it's like a discussion of anything on the internet, and people can make their own little groups about whatever. And there's just, it's got a really good sort of forum discussion. People basically post lots of pictures of kittens and whatever. But it's got everything. So there's like one about Bitcoin and one about everything. And I was like, man, I should make a Reddit subcategory that's just like, you know, sports feeds. Like when if you reload, it shows you like every play that happened. And I was like, it'd be kind of cool if there was a Reddit subcategory that was just like NFL feeds, and each category is a game, and then inside the game there's an automatic program that just posts each like a new comment for every play, and then everyone can comment under it. And I was like, oh, that's gonna be awesome. So I might write that this weekend. But it's sort of like you just have these stupid ideas, and you're like, I don't know, I would sort of want that, because then you'd be like, while the game's happening, you can comment on every like individual event.
You say you don't waste no money programming, right? Just like spend time doing.
Yeah, you just waste time.
And
Yeah.
then if that pays off, you just
Yeah,
win money.
so it's kind of like, yeah, you just,
Yeah.
it's good, man. It's good. You waste some time. I mean, it's so cheap, like, you just got to figure it out. But,
I just do it.
so, you know, how do you know if you're going to like programming? Basically, I say try it. You might like it, you know? And yeah, greetings and everyone. What? I don't know, I'm not looking. Oh, here's some places to, I don't know how to write them down, but there's a lot of things online if you just Google, like, places to learn how to program. This has got that thing. Code.org, Codecademy, to try and make it really easy. Khan Academy, and you guys heard it, has a whole computer programming section with all kinds of things. There's a thing I heard called Code Combat, which tries to do this like video game where you like build up stuff, but you have to actually program to get your guys to do the thing.
So, you say you don't have to program to move your person. If you're no programming, how
No,
do
it
you do
teaches you. It's
Oh,
like,
alright.
all right, first things first, we gotta attack this guy.
it's like a game to teach how to do.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's like, and it's sort of I mean, it doesn't. It's not like a. Actually, it is. It's a real program. It's in JavaScript, which is basically the main programming language for the web. Which most programming, even I don't know most, but a lot of programming is for the web these days.
I'm about to sit on my 5 years.
You can always Google it.
Like how to program? How to
Yeah,
start a
yeah,
program.
just Google it. You know. I think the good thing to do also. I mean, there's the basic thing, but especially if the way to really get into it is to think of something you want. Think of something like. Basically, think of a program that you want yourself for some reason, and that gives you like a lot better. Like you're just like, oh, I want to program.
Math?
I don't know, like,
Solving problems.
well, you know, something like,
solving problems.
yeah, like your math homework, I guess. Or, yeah.
Isn't there like a possibility that like someone already made that program, or could like you
Yeah.
just make a better one? out of it?
Yeah. So a lot of times, yeah, the first thing you'd be like, I wish that's the first thing I did. Like when I had that idea this morning laying in bed, I was like, oh, someone probably already did this. And you'd be surprised how often you're like, no, or maybe they did, but I didn't find it. So that's good enough for me. Like I'm like, I can spend more time trying to find it, or I can just write it really fast. Yeah.
This is like MySpace and then Facebook, like someone already did that.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, just because somebody did it, like usually if you find someone did it, then I'm like, okay, cool, let me see theirs. And usually you're just like hubris, right? Kicks in. You're like, this is a piece of crap. This is the first thing you go. This doesn't do any of this stuff mine would do. And you start being like this thing doesn't go over here. Or I want, like I would have done this all different. This is so hard to use. Or like it doesn't do the exact thing I was thinking it would do. And so yeah, there's definitely lots of like little versions. Like a lot of people have had similar ideas, but it's rare that you come across like, oh no, this is exactly what I want. You're like, I guess I won't write it. It exists already and it's huge and
Like game facts where you make the cheat codes for game. That's like
yeah. Yeah, so like it's sort of good if you come at it from like a problem you're actually trying to solve, I think. But even I like go to like the Code Combat and they'll start to give you the kind of the main ideas of it. Let's see, I don't know what my next slide is. We'll just find out. Oh yeah. And so don't worry about being bad at programming either. This is my own made up kind of numbers that I figured out over the last, whatever, 15, 20 years of being a programmer. They're like, everyone's terrible at programming. Like, everyone who programs professionally as a job, I would say, you know, this is probably about how many programmers there are in the world, maybe almost 8 million. Like, 7 million of them are terrible. But it's just because 7 billion people have no idea. And they're just like, you say you know how to program? Come on in. You know, they're just like, okay, we're figuring it out. Yep. And then, you know, and they don't know. They're like, cool, man, you have an iPhone? Or whatever. Like, they're like, come on, show me how to get on the Wi-Fi. You're like, you're a programmer. You know, it's like, it's a pretty low bar to like, yeah. A lot of people, I'm like, you say you're a programmer, do you? Interesting. Okay, you've made a career out of this? I'm like, yep. All right, good. Then there's some people who I feel like I'm in that category where I'm like, all right, I get it. I'm like a pretty good programmer. Like, that's probably what people think they're getting when they hire programmers. But, you know, 90% of the time they're getting these. And then there's some people like Sage and these guys who write programming languages that are just this whole like, it's weird because it's like level, like I'm probably 10 times better than like this category, and then Sage is another like 10 to 100 times better than me. It's weird. It's just this like, some people are really good at it. Like, it's just boom, we're doing it in an hour. Something that takes like one of these guys like 6 years. Boom. Yeah.
So you work for yourself, right? Like you don't work for no company?
Yeah, no, I started DreamHost, so I worked there for a while. I left, I sold out my shares to other people, and yeah, I don't work for, last company I really worked at was McDonald's in high school. And yeah, I think that was, or I worked one summer for a guy that was like Photoshop stuff, but then, yeah, that was it. I started out in college and didn't get a job afterwards.
So, like, when you sell your thing, can you keep a part of it, or?
Yeah, like, you know, there are all kinds of ways that you can basically make any deal, you know? So it's all about what somebody will pay, if they want control, if they want more than half, or they just want to like ride along, go, you're doing awesome, so we just want to get on your boat, you know? Like, you can still run the show, you keep 90%, I just want to get 10% of whatever you get, I'll give you some money now, so you can keep going while you figure it out, or whatever. Yeah, like in companies in general, it seems like, yeah, with startups, they'll raise up money in rounds. I mean, we actually never raised any money with DreamHost, apart from a small loan from our parents for a week to buy a computer, and we try and pay them that. But yeah, like typically, like startups now will try and, you know, they go and raise money from their friends and stuff to get started, and they'll give them like kind of a lot of the company, because the company's not worth anything. There's nothing right now. It's just like your idea. You know, like we're going to go do this, but like we don't have any customers, we don't have anything. So you're like, give us $5,000. You know, and you're like, why? And they're like, well, if this works out, you'll get a lot. You'll get, you know, 10%, 20% of the company. So then you can figure out, well, basically your company's now worth maybe $25,000 because you sold 20% of it for $5,000. Then you have enough money to like maybe work for 3 months, 2 or 3 people to like develop the thing. Maybe you launch it, you get a few people going, you get some article written about you. You're like, but you're still not making money. Like, you're still losing money. You're not making enough to pay yourself or anything. And so then you go, hopefully, out to more people. And there's a lot of websites now for raising money that you try and raise like a couple $100,000. And then, but that's again for like 10% of the company. So now the company's like worth $1 million if you can get it. And then that's kind of the game that a lot of these companies play. Like, then the next round, you're trying to raise like $1 million. And it's for 10% of the company, but now your company's technically worth $10 million because you've actually got money coming in. And then you get really big and you raise $10 million. And then, you know, so you keep selling whatever. But, you know, if no one wants to invest in you because it seems like a dumb idea, or you're not good at selling it, then you might be giving 70% of your company away. And then as soon as it's not going well, the guy who owns 70% can essentially fire you from your own company because whoever owns the most of the company controls it is the boss. So, you know. But a lot of times no one owns the most. Like, it's like the company's owned by 50 people. 2%. And yeah, everyone has 2%, or like one guy has 10%, you know, so it's about 0.5%. And it's just this big spread thing. And so then it's more like these 30 people get together and vote to kick you out, or something like that. That's kind of all I think of. So, yep, so that's it for my talk part. More questions, I guess. Yeah. What time is it? Yeah, more questions. See you guys. Josh Jones, that's my name. Is this some quiz? Good questions?
Yeah.
What is good? Yeah. Here, let's
What type of challenges did you face in your life?
in my life, my partners, my parents. Just kidding. Parents are good.
We're here to supervise.
Challenges. Yeah, well, so I started the business. Greenhouse, I started with 4 partners and 4 equal partners, and we were all programmers. So a lot of times, if you want to start a business, it might be better to have like the one guy who's the programmer, the one guy who's the business guy, something, or like some kind of division where it's not just like we all do exactly the same thing, and no one's the boss, and we're just 4 guys that are going to argue with each other about everything because we don't, like, you're not this. Yeah, we're all, especially we're all impatient, we're all hubris, we're all lazy. So there's a lot of, that was a big challenge like 15 years until I got out of there, because we never sorted that out. Because the company kept going all right anyway, and every time I wanted to do something, it was like 2 of the 3 other guys didn't think it was a good idea, and they didn't want to do it, I didn't think it was a good idea, but there was no way to resolve these disputes. We couldn't vote on it, because we were all equal, and so, yeah, you need an odd number at least, or something, or something, yeah. 1 is good. Good odd number. Yeah. That was a challenge, I guess. Should I give you 3? What's that last thing? Things that you would know.
I thought you were talking about program, so why would it be an issue?
Your current job.
My current job. Or here. I like this back question, yeah?
I thought it don't cost money to program, so why would it be an issue for y'all to create your ideas?
Because they just didn't think that it's time wasted. You know, it's just like, well, so basically what happened is like, I would just do my idea. They would do their ideas. You know, it would sometimes be like, well, if we all work on this thing, I think this would be a better use of our time. And they'd be like, no, I'm going to go do this thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll just do this idea myself. And you just feel like it's a waste. Or maybe something later when it got bigger, I'd be like, all right, we need to lower prices because we're going to get way more customers if we lower prices. It's going to make up for the lower price a lot. Yeah, it's like, but you get 10 times as many people. Like it's sort of like that. Like you raise your price a little bit, it drops off like crazy. And you're like, maybe we should be lowering our price, and then it goes up like crazy. And since your costs maybe don't go up that much, that you can make more profit. But like that kind of thing, then I'd be like, let's lower our price. I did a test, and it looks like we make tons more money if we lowered our price. And then Dallas would be like, I don't like lowering our price. Which, you understand. But also you want it to be like a premium brand, like you send a message with a price that it's like more valuable because it's more expensive. But I was like, a lot of people would rather save money. They don't care about the brand of their site where they post that no one even knows. It's like saying like I only use Southern California Edison for my electricity. I would never touch DWP for my electricity. It's like, that's not the kind of thing that people are like bragging about. They really just want it to be cheaper. If it does its thing. So yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think we should argue so much. Let's do this again. What were you saying before I cut you off?
What type of responsibility?